Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to talk about templates in Django. So even before we learn what are templates and how to create them, first of all we need to learn why exactly do we need templates. So templates in Django allows us to create HTML dynamically. And what exactly do I mean by that? So you might have noticed here is that we have passed this HTML over here to the HTTP response. And this thing actually works fine, but what happens if you have a bunch of HTML code in here? So let's say, for example, instead of simply having a simple h1 tag over here, let's say you have an entire huge HTML page. So it actually becomes quite tedious to write your entire HTML code in here within this parentheses right here. And also the code does not look clean at all. So instead, what Django allows you to do is that they will allow you to create a template, and a template is nothing but a simple HTML file, and you can have all this HTML code into that particular HTML file, and then you can use that HTML file as a template and pass that template over here instead of passing an entire HTML. So this is one advantage of using template, or one benefit of using template. And the next thing which you can do with templates is that you can also pass in the database entries to the template. So right now in this particular view right here, we have the database entries in this particular variable, which is item list. So with template, what you can do is that you can take the HTML code, take the database content, combine them together and render an HTML page dynamically. So this is the magic of template, and this is what templates allow you to do. Okay, so now once we understand why exactly do we need templates, let's actually go ahead and learn how to create them. Now Django actually comes with its very own templating engine called as the Django template engine. So if you go to the settings.py file, and if you actually scroll up a bit, as you can see, you will have the list templates, and in here you will find that the template engine which the Django actually uses is the Django template engine. As you can see, it is configured over here that this particular app is going to use a template engine, which is the Django template backends. So now once we know that, let's go back to our view right over here, and now let's understand how exactly can we create a template. So we want to create the template for the food app over here. And whenever you want to create a template for a particular app, you first need to go ahead and create a templates directory into that particular app. So you need to go ahead, create a directory over here, name it as templates, hit enter, and now once you have this templates directory, you again need to go ahead, create a directory over here which is called as food itself, which is the app name itself. And now in this particular food directory, you can now go ahead and create a template. So now let's create a file in here, and let's name this template as index.html. And the reason why we need to follow this method of having a template is because Django first needs to understand, or Django first needs to know where exactly the template is located. So by following this convention, now Django actually knows that all the templates related to the food app are actually stored in the templates folder, and again back in the food folder. Okay, so now once we have created this template right over here, let's have a bunch of HTML code or some sample dummy HTML code in here. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can simply type in the exclamation mark and hit enter, and you'll automatically have a bunch of code in here. So for the moment, we are only going to include a heading tag over here, and we are going to say something like this is just a template, and simply save the code. And now we will learn how exactly can we render this particular template for, let's say, this particular view right here. So now once we have this template, we first need to go ahead and load this template up. And what exactly do I mean by loading a template? So Django first needs to know from what location does it need to load the template. And for that very purpose, we actually need to import loader. So we go ahead and do that by typing in from Django.template import loader. So now once we have this loader, we can actually load a template. So in order to load a template, you simply type in loader dot and the method to get template is the getTemplate method, and in here you simply pass in the path where the template is located. So the template is located in the food directory, and the name of the file is index.html. Now once we have that, let's save that template into some variable called as template. Okay, once we have that, we are good to go, and this means that we have successfully loaded up this particular template. Now we can go ahead and render this template, but even before rendering a template always needs a context. Now what exactly do I mean by context? Now context is nothing but the data which we obtain from the database, and Django takes the template and combines it with the data obtained from the database, and then together renders a final output. So right now we already have this data which is extracted from the database, which we can pass as a context, but for now we are just going to keep the context as empty. So I'll type in context equals, and for now this context is going to remain empty, and we are simply going to pass in an empty context in here. So now what we will do is that instead of returning item list in the HTTP response, we are going to render the template. So in order to render the template, you type in template.render, and in here you need to pass in the context as well as the request. So now once you go ahead and do that, your template will be successfully rendered. So now just make sure that the server is up and running, and now if you actually go over here to the browser, and now if you go ahead and hit enter, as you can see, now your template is successfully rendered, and upon visiting this URL you'll get that this is just a template. And we get that result because we have rendered a template over here that is an entire HTML file instead of passing in some static content in here. So that's how you can go ahead and use templates in Django, and we have not yet passed the database contents over here as a context to this particular template, but in the upcoming lecture we will go ahead and learn how to pass the database content or the database data to this particular template so that that database data is also rendered along with the HTML. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.